When you are.
All right, everyone. I would like to call to order the November 8th meeting of the school committee. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we have a moment of reflection, I do want to recognize the work of Mike, his wife, and others on the veteran display. Certainly a time for remembrance for our veterans as we have our moment of reflection. I also would like us to think about all those that have need in the world while we open or lower our heads and open our hearts. I thank you all. And now I will consider a motion to enter into executive session under RIGL section 42-46-5A1 via roll call.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Travis Audie,
Aye.
Hannah Ayat. Aye. Susan Kinane.
Aye.
Mike Rocha.
Aye.
Excellent. And now, of course, Sean will be with us momentarily.
Be when you are.
Wow, awesome.
Fair.
All right, I would like to welcome everyone back from executive session into open session. I will notify everyone that there were no votes taken in executive session, and I will consider a motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The motion passes. The minutes are sealed. Item 4, consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 4.1 through 4.5? Do I have a second?
I'd just like to pull one out. If you would.
Go ahead. What would you like to pull out?
4.4, please. Yes.
What questions do you have?
I'm just going over this real quick. As of June 12th, 2023, we had 222 students. And as of, just to clarify, as of 11/6/23, we have 213. I was just reviewing last month's finance report. As of, we had 17 tuition students of that 213. So in your report, it says it refers to 17 tuition students, not to put you on the spot, John, but so basically, if I understand that like we're at 197 without the tuition students.
Correct. That's where we've been hovering since post-COVID. We were just over 200 prior. I think we were like 211. And then we dropped below 200. We've kind of been in that in terms of how in district students. And we've grown from 6 out of district to now 17, but still it is a challenge to, have the, go ahead.
If I may, some of those children are Little Compton children, and they're in preschool.
Okay, and they pay the
tuition.
yes,
They
okay.
never paid it to us before. They paid it to the region, and now they are paying it to the district.
Correct. I remember reading that in the finance report, and it's an amended amount, correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
So is that 5 number? Because there's 2 numbers. One says 17 and then the one says 5. 5 at 2,700 and then one was 17 at 6,000.
Yeah, there's a reduced amount for preschool because it's only, 3 days?
4 days a week.
4 days, half day.
4 half days. So is that 5 part of the 17 or is that in addition to the 17?
Part of this.
I think that's part of the 17.
That's brand new. We've never had them sign a contract with our district. It was always with the region. So that is one of the processes that we have sort of
Excuse me,
captured.
that's 17 at 6,000 per student plus another 5 pre-K students at 27. That's on top of the 17.
Big Charles.
All right.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor to approve the consent agenda, items 4.1 through 4.5? Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to item 5, fall academics and activities. Principal McKinnon, take it away.
Thank you,
See
Chair.
you as always.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, we have our parent-teacher conferences that are going to be taking place beginning tomorrow. Some have actually started today, but for different reasons. And Tuesday of next week. If you remember, we talked about the IB verification taking place October 18th and 19th, 2 or 3 weeks ago. We did get the report back regarding the verification. I can't come out and say that we are a IB World School yet, but of the 50 benchmarks that they were looking at, there were 3 they call MTBAs, matters to be addressed. So there's 3 of those 50-ish that we're working on, but we're hoping that we could be there a lot sooner than Dr. Mitchell and I talked about, probably in the next week or 2. So we'll hopefully have good news for the December school committee meeting. Our 8th graders go to Buck Hill on Tuesday through Friday of next week. Buck Hill is an outdoor camping trip to the northwest corner of Rhode Island, the Burrillville, Pascagoula area. It's supposed to take place in October because of Triple E. It had to get postponed until we had our first frost.
Yes.
So Mr. DeLeo can finally cook some of the food that he's had in his freezer for the past month and a half. That's taking place on Tuesday through Friday. If you also remember, we have a Clean Ocean Access. It's a company out of Middletown, and they're involved with obviously all things clean ocean. But one of the things they have on their programs is food composting. We are having a school-wide assembly on Tuesday of next week with Sarah LaValle from Clean Ocean Access to talk about the food composting program that's going to take place. If you remember, we had a student here a year ago, now a Portsmouth High School freshman, who put pressure on the school committee for paper trays to be used, compostable paper trays. And obviously this takes it to another level with the food. So hopefully that's up and running. We were hoping to get it started early in the year, but there's so much more to it than just, talking to the kids. But we're hoping to get that up and running. Veterans Day Assembly is taking place on Friday of this week. And, coming here, actually last year was my first year watching this event. It really is one of the finest, I feel, community events that the town has, where veterans from our community, come into school. There's speakers, there's band playing, there's chorus, kids singing. Miss Corrigan, our school librarian, library media aide, and Miss Miller are spearheading this Veterans Day Assembly. And finally, John, if you could put this up, our students of the month for the month of October. The theme was communicator. The neat thing about this, obviously, all 12 of them, or however many they are, certainly a great thing, but our students in grades 6 through 8 actually voted for the student. In the past, it's always been the teacher who votes on it. But we sent out Google Forms to all the students, grades 6, 7, and 8. And believe it or not, I truly believe that their choices were pretty close to where the teachers would be. So that was a neat thing to see. And we're looking forward to kind of expanding it maybe into the 5th grade very soon. So that's the report from the school.
All right.
Awesome. All right. Anyone have any questions for Principal McKinnon? Principal McKinnon, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 6, the superintendent report, and we'll be discussing the state assessments, Lori.
Yes, this is our night, isn't it?
Yes.
Just a short sort of snapshot of where we are. Our students at Wilbur McMahon, we know that they are much more than the data on a state test. They are unique individuals, precious and cherished, each and every one of them. And we know that state tests are just capture where the students are relative to learning standards at that moment in time. That said, oh gosh, when Barrington has to qualify their results and say out of K-12 districts, we know we've made it. We've arrived. In ELA, we are number 1. There are 65 LEAs and local educational agencies, and 55 have K-8 grades. We are number 1 in English language art achievement among our children. In science, we are number 1. And in math, we are 6 out of 66, 55 or 56 or so with K through 8. We are at this point with 2 out of 3 of the markers for excellence. We are the best district in the state of Rhode Island. And I would like to give our teachers, their students, and their families a round of applause.
Yeah.
We always say we work year round, so we work quite a bit as administrators. The hardest work is done in our classrooms by our teachers, our students, and also the specialists who support all of them. And so this is incontrovertible evidence of where the school is headed. It has always been a good school, and Mr. McKinnon and I have always said we would take this school from good to great. And if, all the stars were aligned and we had all the support we needed and none of our teachers left because they are that fantastic, and it has happened. We are absolutely over the moon. Next page, please. Thanks, Jonathan.
Let her do it. We'll get to you. Thank you, Mrs. Biddy.
And then we have our individual grade spotlight. And so not only are we number one in terms of aggregate data, all of our kids, all of their proficiency rates, we have several grade levels that are number one in the state. We have 11 out of 14 possible data points that a district could have. 11 out of 14 are in the top 10. Our grade 3 is number one in ELA. And if you look at elementary schools, there are about 170 in the state. Our grade 1 is, our grade 4 is also number one in ELA achievement. Grade 4 is also number one in math achievement. Grade 5 is number one in math achievement and also number one in ELA achievement. Grade 5 is also number one in the state in next generation science assessment, science achievement. Our grade 6 ELA data is the highest in the state, as grade 3 math data is number 2 in the state. Grade 7 ELA data is number 3 in the state. Number 4 for next generation science assessment for grade 8. And number 9 in the state, grade 8 ELA. Now, I can attest to the difficulty in moving a middle school in a direction like this. The movement in the middle school, the growth and progress have been absolutely exponential. We have upgraded our math curriculum. We have professional learning communities meeting every week discussing student learning and curriculum instruction and assessment. We have upgraded our science curriculum. We have sort of booster curriculum units in science in grade 6, 7, and 8. Our teachers they have been incredibly patient and thorough in transitioning to our new English language arts curriculum, which has built-in complexity, that's for sure. And so we are just so proud. We've done very well in the past 3 years, but this year we knocked it out of the park. And we have to remember we have small numbers. There's a power in small numbers. It means that a small number of data points can really impact in a big way. And so I can honestly say our teachers and our kids they're extraordinary in what they have accomplished, especially coming through the pandemic. I think remaining open during the pandemic the way we did and truly moving forward with all of our curriculum initiatives and also the international baccalaureate journey. There is a corollary between schools entering onto that international baccalaureate path and higher student achievement. It just locks in incredible rigor and deep learning. And this is positive. Go ahead, Jonathan. Thank you so much. And this comes right from the state dashboard. It looks at our growth over the past 3 years. Here we have ELA growth. We were 61.1% in terms of proficiency rates. Now, when we think of proficiency rates, we have to think of this. That is a data point that directly connects to learning standards. So our students are extraordinary with or without these data points. But the fact that we are achieving at the highest rate in the state with this new assessment, it is new. These standards are new. Only the past few years we're teaching to them, shows just how hard everyone is working at Wilbur McMahon School. So we had a little bit of a dip last year, if you look at 2022 data there, And then we had a huge booth, nice growth in, this past spring, 2023. So no matter what's up there in terms of data, it doesn't reflect where our kids are. Our kids go to high school, absolutely high school ready. So we know they're 100% ready and proficient in all the ways they should be to handle high school math and science and English and social studies and et cetera, et cetera. This is a data point just relative to the learning standards set by the state, very rigorous for every single grade level. And we are performing at the highest. Next. The science growth has been enormous. This is a data point that we sort of knew. This summer, we did get some raw data, but it had no context. We didn't know where we fell within the state. Once again, the next generation science standards, like Common Core state standards in ELA and math, they're new. They're relatively new. And, we have to bend everything to the arc of all of these new learning standards, every district in the state. And we keep on comparing ourselves to Massachusetts. Well, they have been teaching to these standards, these same rigorous standards, since 1998, 25 years. So they've got about 21 years on us. But, I look at some of our data and we are in sync with many of the communities in Massachusetts who have been doing this for 2.5 decades. That science data point is really a fascinating data point because most districts do not dedicate a lot of time on learning to science in the lower grades, and this school does. I think every principal that's ever sat downstairs and every superintendent has always valued science more than most districts can or do. And many focus on the two heavy hitters, math and ELA. This is a district that has a very long history of supporting science. So, Jack and I are standing on the shoulders as leaders of many of the people who come before us. And that data point is very unique. The Department of Ed did ask me what our secret sauce was in terms of science achievement because it's very flat in the state and we had a nice big boost. Well, we reached out to EBEC, the East Bay Educational Collaborative, a couple of years ago, and I asked for their top science consultant. And their top science consultant, coincidentally, comes from Little Compton. I had no idea until I met with her. And I was told, she said, oh, by the way, I live here. I said, wow, okay. And so she has been consulting with our staff. And she did write up exactly what we're doing here. RIDE did ask for it. They wanted our secret sauce and they got it. And I will also be speaking to other superintendents at the end of the month regarding just how this data point happened here. And so I'm pretty proud of the ELA achievement, the math achievement, but science is so flat everywhere else. But maybe because we're surrounded by the ocean, all these natural resources, this natural beauty, it's always been a value here in Little Compton. And, we're definitely superstars in the science realm. Next, Jonathan. Math growth. So math, we're number 6 in the state, but we're not satisfied with that, that's for sure. So we've absolutely flipped over the table and just integrated all new resources this year in K-6 and also grade 7 and 8. And so we are just starting the transition to sort of math curriculum that is CCSS aligned 2.0. And I think we'll see even more gains. And hopefully we take a top 3 spot next spring. And the teachers probably want to throw me out at this point, but they're doing the best work and the children too. Next. Okay, I think this is the last slide. And none of this could be possible without the support of the school committee and the community. We have all of the supports and mechanisms in place to succeed. We have a lot of social emotional support systems here. You know, this is called the age of anxiety, the age of tech, the age of, 24-hour, news and catastrophizing. And so it definitely has an impact on children and families. So as a counterpoint to that, we have wonderful bullet points to go over right now. We have a dedicated faculty and staff, engaged families, an incredible principal. We have strengthened, it used to be called RTI, now it's called multi-tiered systems of support and evaluation team meeting processes, the special education, student support services realm. We have year-round wraparound student support services. Since summer of 2018, we've had a clinician servicing kids on site. She runs little book clubs in the summer, so she catches kids before they would fall into an area of concern. And so we need to give Mary Elizabeth Miller, our clinician, huge props. She is absolutely the center of all of the SEL components here. Our teachers meet weekly to discuss student progress, and not just in the academic realm, but in the social emotional realm as well. It's a truly holistic framework that this school and district operate within. We have a learning recovery coordinator, that is our guidance counselor, Cara DiGiulio. And if students are out sick for a long time, she will touch base with those families. That started with COVID, when we had to do all of those state protocols regarding close contacts and quarantining. Thank goodness all that is generally, in the past. Review mirror, stay there, please. And so what we've done, we have an additional clinician at point 2 from the region. When the region dissolved, we kept that position on. So we do have an additional clinician, just one day a week, but it does help out, especially with our preschool and our primary grades. And most of all, we have a community and a school committee that you all cheer us on. And none of that is lost on any of the teachers, any of the kids and their families. Academics, let's face it, we're on the right track. And other districts are taking notice. We have a dedicated faculty and staff and engaged families. We have credentialing. It is a state mandate, but we beat that mandate by a year. And so the science of reading is at the heart of our literacy instruction. I'm certified in it. All K-5 teachers and specialists are certified in it. And, I went on that journey with them. It was one of the most difficult courses I've ever completed. And I just give them props for pushing through. We have IB weekly meetings. The International Baccalaureate is more than just a distinction. It is a way of seeing the world. It is a way of seeing yourself. It is a way of thinking and communicating and giving back to your community. We have content alike and grade alike professional learning communities on the regular. We have middle school and elementary school math interventionists. We have literacy interventionists. The majority of the time they're pushing in. It's a co-teaching model. We have an English language arts curriculum, expeditionary learning, that is absolutely brilliant. And it also encourages cross-content area literacy. So there are pieces to that curriculum that a science teacher can grab, a PE teacher can grab, a math teacher. We have revamped, starting last year, our Algebra 1 program, and this year, our K-8 math curriculum. And we're going towards, we're there, but it is a journey for this first year in it, Eureka Squared. Our science curriculum, we use the FOSS kits, and we've added some curriculum upgrades. And that was on the advice and counsel of our incredible locally grown science consultant, Natalie Eliason. We have digital plan books titled for the IB Experience Plan Board and others that make life a little easier for teachers once they can get all of their units and lessons in. And thank you so much, Jonathan Gabriel. We forget that we share him with the public safety complex. They call me looking for him. I call them looking for him. And if we could only clone him 3-4 times over, we know he's in an impossible position. Both enterprises, the safety complex, police and fire, and education, just in the past 4 years since Jonathan joined us, those dashboards have just grown exponentially, especially in the face of the pandemic. And, body cams over there and, Wi-Fi capabilities of all of the ambulances and so forth, and the internal systems there. And, he's in an impossible position on a daily basis. And I want to publicly thank him. The cutting edge technology means equity and access for all. And I will fight the chiefs for him. No, just kidding. So we do. We call each other and text each other. He is so valued. Thank you. And we have an incredible business manager. Terrible attitude, but he gets the job done beautifully. And I've learned so much. I'm certainly not a CPA or an actuary, but every now and then I play one during budget time. And so this is a celebration of your community and what has happened. It is the first in Little Compton.
Yes.
So.
Thank you, Superintendent. And certainly, while we have a good crowd here, I want to thank the administration, certainly, the teachers, the students, the families, and the stakeholders, because it truly takes a collective effort. Oftentimes we say, what is it that drives a kid? What motivates them? And you could have a perfect kid, or in your mind, a perfect kid. They're not thriving in school, or they're not getting the support at school, or they're not getting the support at home. It might not always pan out. But the fact that we have the support from the teachers and the administrators, the students that want to thrive, and then a family system in our community that really champions education, it's a beautiful thing. And to see these outcomes, while we're always in the pursuit of perfection, I will certainly champion progress on the way. So I'm incredibly proud of our students, incredibly grateful for everyone in this room, certainly the committee, and then everyone that tirelessly gives of themselves to enhance the outcomes of the children, which then enhances the outcomes of the stakeholders in this community. So thank you all that are present here tonight. That being said, if there are public comments, I would like to hold them for when we do public comment. If there is anyone else from the committee that would like to speak, please feel free, because this is a collective effort. This is really the work of everyone that's sitting in this room, and certainly everybody that might be listening, and everyone that drops their kids off, picks them up, families, extended guardians. So I'm just so proud of our community. And to speak to Lori's point, I have been participating in school chair activities outside of Little Compton, and people are noticing. People, when Jonathan would say, "Hey, I talked to other IT guys," and they're always like, "Man, hey, what's going on down there? Like, you're making things happen." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Well, what's the feeling?" And he's like, "Sometimes they don't have the support that we do." And that seems to be the theme. Everybody says, "What's the sauce down there that you get the community buy-in?" And I truly believe it's because we're all here to help each other. When our children thrive, our elders thrive. When our elders thrive, our families thrive. And one hand washes the other, and both wash the face. And to have this happen in this time following COVID, when there still is a lot of work to do, a lot to overcome, but I'm certainly going to highlight the hard work and effort and champion the outcomes that have really been produced. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. Anyone else from the committee would like to comment?
Can't say it better than that.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Lori. We will move down to item 7, finance report. Mr. John McNamee, thank you for your patience, and thank you for making the drive as always. Be careful this time of year, the deal is very active.
You don't really expect me to follow that.
I do.
Well, As I explained during last month's meeting, we had a certain number that we had for tuition for Newport County Regional Special Education Program
Yes.
to reallocate in the budget. So I have done that. So the adjusted budget that's reflected on the financial statements includes that reallocation. That reallocation shows a balanced budget. So we're not showing any adjustments to the budget as a positive or a negative. Currently, we're still projecting a very small surplus. We do have approximately $61,000 more in tuition than we had budgeted for students coming in, and that would be the 17 plus the 5 pre-K students. That is offset by an increase in the number of students going to our career and technical schools. So that's showing an increase over budget of about $45,000 in that line item. As I explained at last month's meeting, our placement tuition was budgeted at 82 students, and that's what we have there right now. There's a possibility that we may have a drop of 1 going forward, but right now we're projecting the 82 for the year. So that leaves us with roughly about $9,500 of excess of revenues over expenses for projected. Again, it's still early in the year, but right now, based on what I've identified as positives and negatives, we should be close to that at this point in time.
I do have a question, John. With that being said, of the out-of-district tuition for the technical schools, do we anticipate any other students this school year adding into that tract or that possibility of?
Usually that happens.
Just curious if anybody's on the radar, maybe somebody moving into town, or we've had any.
Had movement, if I may, Chair.
That's fine.
We've already had our first term of movement.
Okay.
I handled the busing and all that for the kiddos. And I think we're pretty settled now,
Okay.
but we give them choice.
Does anyone else have any?
Choice of the Met, Rogers, any other high school with a CTE pathway
Correct.
that Portsmouth doesn't have, and Portsmouth, they do have a lot of choices.
Any other committee members, questions for Mr. John McNamee?
I'm good for now.
Good, thank you.
Beautiful. Right along, we will go to item 8, the committee reports. We will start with item 8.1, the policy subcommittee report. Ms. Hannah Ayotte.
Thank you. The policy subcommittee met last Wednesday, November 1st. It's a very well-attended meeting. And then I can update later on when we have some policies to vote on.
Excellent.
Mhm.
All right. Item 8.2, Portsmouth School Committee Liaison Report. That is me. I have some notes here I'd like to read. Several PHS Portsmouth High School seniors were recently named to the National Merit Scholarship and are finalists. And wait a second, how does this read? Excuse me. Seniors were recently named to the National Merit Scholarship semifinalists. So we will find out if they are moving on to the next level. I know that Dr. Kenworthy was very excited about that. We also have, as we did tonight, they released their RICAS scores, and Portsmouth is, I want to say, the number 4 high school in the entire state, behind Barrington, East Greenwich, and possibly North Smithfield. Does that sound right? Is that right? Yeah, I know
That
that.
would be for NGSA though, I think.
Yes.
That was for science.
They don't take the RICAS.
Okay. Yes.
Oh.
Okay. And then finally, business portion of the agenda. Committee discussed legislative priorities in anticipation of the upcoming meeting with the town council and local legislators. So similar to us, they are talking about opportunities that lie at the legislation level that we might be able to pursue, and then also present to when we meet with the budget committee and or any members of the council. Moving right along, item 8.3, Ms. Sue Canane, the Wellness Committee Liaison Report.
Nothing new to report. Our next meeting will be at the end of this month. And we'll be going over the policy again, because at the last meeting, there were questions about language, so
Okay.
that's that.
And then finally, last but certainly not least, and I know there were several people that weren't in the room when I said this earlier. I want to first turn it over to Michael, but before I do so, I want to thank him and his family and all those that contributed to the veteran memorial we have out there. Being somebody that interacts with people that are coming and going from town, it is absolutely striking. No other community has it. And I'm really proud to say we had a great week. There was the Veterans Community Dinner on Monday. We'll be honoring the veterans on Friday at the school, and then to have this memorial displayed for the entire month. It really makes me proud to live in this community that gives such care and respect to their veterans. So Michael, I'll turn it over to you with the town recreation report, and certainly thank you for your efforts in here.
Thanks. The rec committee did not meet this past month, but I did receive some paperwork that there's going to be basketball is going to be starting again. This is for the younger kids. I need to get some more information on it. The initial date request was for November 18th through December 2nd, which doesn't seem like there's enough time there, but I will reach out to the rec chair tomorrow to find out. We do have a website that can be accessed through the Town of Little Compton's website to actually be able to view anything that's going on for recreation. And I will update that with more information. Mary Kate is one that ran this last year, and she will be running again. And I believe it was up to grades 5. So I believe that'll be the same thing. And it went from 9 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock in the morning, and it was right here in the gymnasium. So I just want to double check on the dates, because it's only like 4 Saturdays. It doesn't seem like it's enough, but I will find out. And again, just go to our Town of Little Compton website, and you can check on the recreation calendar, and you'll be able to find more information there. Other than that, we don't have anything else going right now.
Thank you, Michael. All right. It is now time for public input. Thank you all for coming. I know it's glamorous. So thank you for coming and sharing. Roger's chuckling, but he knows how glamorous it is. He gives up his time and videotaping these meetings. So please, if there are public comments, anything that came up tonight or anything you would like to see on future agendas or questions you may have that we can log and get back to you, we'd be happy to hear from you. What we would ask is that if you did have a comment, you would state your name, your address, and I'll be timing everybody for 3 minutes. This way we can have a little sense of order in that. Right ahead this morning.
Maureen Rebel, 16. And I guess I have a public comment about the policy subcommittee meeting last week, November 1st. So it was really sort of a great lesson for the one student that was there, the 8th grader. Civics 101, critical thinking 101, to be able to get up in front of, her administration, her, all the adults present in the room. I want to clarify something, because there was a lot of going back and forth about what was disruptive language or hate speech, or the word transphobe is more, it's not a fear. It is an irrational fear of something. So for her to say, am I considered a transphobe? And for, a school committee member or policy subcommittee member to say that in this situation, not calling her a transphobe, but in this situation of not wanting to share a locker room, bathroom, changing room with someone of the opposite sex, I don't feel that that is an irrational fear. We teach our children to be mindful of where they are. If anyone has a daughter, you would not send your 16 or 14-year-old daughter at the, it's not the garden anymore, it's whatever it's called. Okay, and I don't even know, do they have gender neutral bathrooms? I assumed gender neutral bathrooms were one stall, not multiple stalls. So I guess my question is, are the bathrooms here clearly marked? Are the locker rooms clearly marked? Do children know what they're going into? Are there any gender neutral bathrooms in the school that are marked? For anyone that isn't aware of what's going on in our society today, as a woman that is coming out of a store late at night, I am aware and looking around to make sure I'm going to get to my car safely. I was in a pub a couple of months ago. The ladies' room was in the basement. There was no one in the basement. It was pitch black. There were some kegs there, and the ladies' room was down a long aisle. And I went into the bathroom and I thought, what am I going to do if somebody opens this door? Because I have no clue if it's a man or woman coming in, not necessarily someone who wants to use the bathroom either, but someone who wants to cause harm.
Sorry to interrupt, but that's 3 minutes.
What's that?
That's 3 minutes. Just sorry to interrupt.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't aware, I didn't see it on policy that 3 minutes was only allowed at the school committee meeting. But what I'd like to say, and if I can wrap
You
it
can
up,
wrap up, Maureen. Thank you.
I think to have, a mindset of thinking transphobe is wrong. I can assure you that no one is coming to these meetings with a meaning of hate in their heart. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment, and thank you for attending this meeting and other meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Please, miss, state your name, and Jonathan, you're on the clock there. Name and address. Thank you, miss.
Karen Boschman, 42 Oliver Lane, Compton, Rhode Island. I'm going to read this because I want to stay on time. I was very upset after attending the policy subcommittee last Tuesday, and I want you to know that I have contacted a law firm about filing individual lawsuits against two of the subcommittee language members, the superintendent and the Little Compton School Committee as a whole, for slandering and violating my rights of speech. I will follow through with these lawsuits if I am ever accused of hate speech again, whether borderline or otherwise. You will not damage my character in this community with this accusation, and I did not use hate speech, nor do I hate anyone, nor am I transphobic. I am not afraid of transgender children or adults. In the case of Rosenberg versus Rector of the University of Virginia, the prevailing opinion states, in the realm of private speech or expression, government regulations may not favor one speaker over another, and public schools, likewise, may not silence the expression of select viewpoints. In the meeting, I expressed, and according to science, no matter how one identifies as a boy or a girl, it is still a boy and it is still a girl, which is proven by their genitalia, their DNA, their chromosomes. This is basic science. This is biology. This is not hate speech. Second, there is no law in the United States that says I have to use pronouns, or as I was told in that meeting, I must use the correct terminology. There is a law, the First Amendment, which protects the rights of all Americans to express their opinions and beliefs without fear of government punishment, school board punishment, or even those views that hurt someone's feelings. Regarding being silenced, we were told we each had 3 minutes. I was allowed at 45 seconds. The public is allowed input, and I hope that the subcommittee does not represent the whole school committee, and you are more open to what the community has to say. I object to the restroom, locker room, and changing room facility clause, as it is not safe having a boy, even if he identifies as a girl, be in a changing room with girls, or in a locker room, or in a bathroom. It's not safe practice. The second clause of that policy is completely egregious and should be eliminated. We all have a deep desire and love for children, and it is this fierce desire to see all children succeed, flourish, and be healthy. The subcommittee said we should be more educated on transgender children. As for education, the most recent research conducted by doctors who agree with transitioning children in the last 24 months, England, Finland, and Sweden, who have been doing this for many years, longer than the US, and have conducted a 180 reversal on pediatric gender transformation. The science and the results concluded that using puberty blockers, hormone treatments, cross-sexual hormone treatments, surgeries, cause injuries, diabetes, brain surgery, osteoporosis, and death to
That's
these
3
cancer
minutes, just so you know.
trials. And if I may.
You can please finish.
They don't result in happy, contented adults. The answer they concluded, these doctors of this study, was it is a psychotherapy issue. And based on research, they deemed it is a mental health issue, which should be addressed as such. And most D-trans, when they are older, and they have the ability, the capability as an adult to make that decision. So to push this agenda is not loving, and it is not in the best interest of children.
Thank you, Carol. Please state your name, address.
My name is Sal Marinosi. I'm from 24 Oliver Lane. I attended the same meeting, and I wasn't hurt by anything. I've got thick skin. But I think that we live in a town where we see each other. We say hello to each other. We have coffee with one another. We share a lot of the same things in this town. I know I will help anybody that asks for it in this town, myself personally. A lot of people know that about me. I'm open to a lot of discussion. I would hope that maybe the next meeting could be a little warmer. It was conducted in a fashion that was pretty straight-laced, and curt is the word for it. And I don't think that produces or makes us feel welcome. It makes us feel like we want to promote the school and we want to be part of what you're doing, because we do. You shouldn't take this as a negative thing. This is a positive thing.
Yes.
But that night, it was like they took it as a negative thing. And I'm not going to say everybody did, but I didn't feel real welcome. I want to feel welcome. I'm Italian. I'm like that. Okay. And I mean that sincerely. In my family, we hugged. We hugged everybody. I didn't feel that way that night. I want to feel that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Sal. Is there anyone else? Ms. Pinio?
I have a couple of comments.
Please.
Oh, I'm old, so I have to get my back up. Lindsay Pinio, 469 Long Highway. First of all, congratulations to your teachers and your students for their #1 placement in grades. Did you say K or first?
Well, the assessed grades are 3 through 8, but it starts at 3 years old in our preschool.
Right. And congratulations to them and for all of their work and for the children's receptiveness, which means that their parents are sending them to be receptive students. And we couldn't be happier to have that in our community. So following that, I just have a question about a twofold question. One is that I noticed that we dropped to 9th position for 8th grade in ELA. And so my first question is, do we have some thoughts in retrospect about what created that extraordinary drift between 1st to 9th? And second, I would like to know, of course, because our children go to Portsmouth High School, what was their placement for their 8th grade students as they were about to enter the 9th grade? And so therefore, do you have collaborative needs for discussion back and forth, because there could be mutual problems? That's a big, not to dispute the good fortune of the early grades, but then all of a sudden, middle school is upon us. Not to mention hormones, of course. But I mean, what we have in here is all of a sudden, in comparison to first place, a drastic drop to 9th place. Now, that doesn't mean that we're drastically deplete or anything, but it means, what are we doing to pursue the nits and grits of this. That would be those two parts to my question. And then later I have another question that is on a different topic. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Now, so you can answer this question. I mean, I think we can pull up that chart and we could, first off, we can absolutely see where Portsmouth is in comparison to us. In terms of how that aligns. And then the other, I mean, in terms of the drop off, I'd have to see the number again. I think we were on that chart, we were ninth in something. Was it ELA or was it math?
ELA.
It was ELA. Okay.
So last.
Yeah, there it is. Ninth, grade 8 ELA. It's the last item there.
Or grade 8 was number 3 in the state, ELA.
So a very valid question, Mrs.
Yep, absolutely. And there could be a number of variables there. It could be the size of the cohort. It could be that, we had students who might have, we had a standard or two that was taught, maybe after the assessment. The assessments come pretty early in the year. And our curriculum goes 180 days. And that assessment can come at the, 130th or 40th day sometimes. So it could be a matter of pacing, switching around the scope and sequence. And so my guess is maybe the size of the cohort sometimes.
And if you look at the historical data for that one class, they actually improved 3 percentage points from the previous year. So, it was an improvement, but certainly not. And again, you get into the small numbers, you can do great things with small numbers. At the same time, it can come back and cause, quick changes in numbers with such small numbers. If you had a larger group, say of, 145 eighth graders, you should see it should kind of waver right around the same, but with small numbers, it can move. It can move a little bit.
A couple of things can impact it.
But with respect, we are so blessed here that we have small numbers in every class.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So cohort size, I think maybe not be, or to be covaried out of that formula, and people are looking at what are the nuts and bolts that go into that step up that goes to middle school ELA, because there is a giant step for 6th, 7th, and 8th. And it's all of a sudden children are coming home and saying, Mom, Dad, this is hard. So, helping parents to understand the nuts and bolts of the curriculum may be extremely important in this.
Well, we have a spot for that. And could you take us to Curriculum Central very quickly?
While Lori's bringing that up, I do want to share, and I can't speak to last year. There was at one point when I first got onto the committee, there was a survey. And I remember seeing the survey, and there was an incredible drop off in middle school in terms of engagement. It was concerning. So while I'm in agreement with you, I would like to continue to drill down to see how we can get perfect scores across the board. I am thrilled that we went from an engagement rate, which I was like, this must be an outlier. We're at like 20%. Everyone else is at 75%. So with those numbers, knowing that and seeing this, something has changed. Are we there yet? No. But certainly some sort of engagement, to speak to your point of the parents are preparing the children to be excited to go to school and the children are excited to be there. So we need to continue to capture that. But yes, I'm with you. And to speak to Principal McKinnon's point, 1 or 2 kids in a classroom changes. If you get one more kid in every grade, that puts us into like over 75%. And then they're coming down here going, what's going on? Because nobody's scoring above 70. So while I know it's not 100%, there's something in our minutia of our community, of our administration, of our buy-in from our parents and students, as well as our small class sizes that allow us to exceed expectations more often than not. However, if we take our eye off the ball, and don't have that support, those support systems in place, it's very easy, as Principal McKinnon said, to fall right off the radar. And we would like to prevent that. So your question speaks to a great deal of, we're getting there. What's the final little pieces where we can really ensure that we're putting our best foot forward every single time and not leaving any stone unturned, if you will?
Absolutely. Excellent. So we do have, speaking to your question about curriculum, this is a site that I created a while ago and I update it constantly. And the public can just go to district and check out everything, our math curriculum, our standards. There are also resources for parents if you hit, keep on going. And I give an overview of our curriculum and it's constantly changing. Now I have to change all of this to Eureka Squared and get all new links. I also threw all the learning standards in there as well from the Department of Ed. Keep on going. Jonathan's saying, oh, wow, all right, she's airborne. She's adding all this stuff. This is new, Jonathan. I did not need your help. And so everything is laid out, fully transparent, everything that we use, our new PE curriculum, our new health curriculum, our FOSS kits in science. A parent can go to, let's see, 3rd grade or 4th grade and click on that. No, their child is learning. Click on one of those. And cross my fingers that it's a hot link. Yay! So that is, a living document, a living, breathing document. Sometimes it can be a cohort thing, Ms. Pinio, where if you have a cohort of 19 as opposed to 27, it's happened rarely, but it happened a few times when I was here. Or it could be just some of the standards are not the depth of covering them, needs to be tweaked a bit. Or it could be a standard that our kids missed during the pandemic in 2 or 3 grades before that 8th grade. So I can
I'm
also.
still most worried about.
Yeah.
The catch up.
So our PLCs meet weekly.
See it a couple of years.
And Mr. McKinney might want to speak about some of that student-centric work quickly.
Yeah, regarding PLCs. So a lot of it built into the teacher's schedule is an opportunity for them to meet, across the grade levels. Grade 6 can meet with grade 5, 5 can meet with 4, 6 with 7 and 8. And what that allows is for that link to making sure that the curriculum is moving along the way it should be with, across the board in all the different levels, whether it be ELA, math, social studies, science. They look at student data in those PLCs. They look at iReady scores, which is an assessment that we take 3 times a year, September, January, and again in May. And we look at where the kids are, particularly with whether it's a reading or in math in particular. Go ahead.
In doing so, do you notice a lot of adjustments being made, or do you feel like you're on?
Yeah, no, you see growth. I mean, you know what, September, when they come in and they start taking the iReady, probably within the first 2 weeks, you see what's called the summer slide, where the students, might even be a little bit lower than what they were in May. But over the course of the year, and particularly from September to January, you do see a tremendous amount of growth, and you want to keep that going into May. But they look at the scores. They'll address students who may be not moving along as well as they should, and whether it's getting them some more services, or just paying a little more attention to them in the classroom, to help them with their movement, their growth, I should say.
Beautiful. Your second question. You're still under time. So
Okay.
No, go ahead.
All right, that's fine. I noticed also that you have wraparound services
Yes.
for your students.
Clinician.
Are you able to will you describe that a little bit?
Sure. Since 2018, that summer, my first summer here, I can't take any credit for it because it was planned before I got here. And I was just stunned, that the district was so forward thinking regarding student needs in times of, vacation and so forth. And so Mary Elizabeth Miller was hired, and she started that summer, putting in, I believe, 10 days. So maybe a day a week, or sometimes a couple of, she would come in and sometimes it's twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, sometimes 2 weeks off, depending on the students that she was servicing. During and after the pandemic, with the federal money that did flow through RIDE, we certainly didn't get tons, but it was enough to really augment our summer safety net. And we added our guidance counselor to that using ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds. And I wrote her into that. And so we have 2 counselors in the summer working with children. We also used those funds to pay the cost of the entire month of July of an enrichment camp at the community center. So we forged a sort of interagency collaboration for the first time in the history of the town, and between the public schools and a community-based organization of 501c3. And we continued that, and I believe this summer coming up will be our 3rd or our 4th. It'll be our 4th year inviting the community center into this grant. The parents sign a release so that the community center staff can speak to our staff about the kids' reading levels, about any of their vulnerabilities that need to be attended to. It is a safety net unlike anything we've ever seen before. Like every other district, though, in the country, this money dries up at the end of this calendar year. Our programs run through, I believe, September 30th, 2024. And so we were just talking earlier, right before the meeting, of how to keep that funding apportioned for that summer program. The parents love it. Every child goes for free. They had an Olympian, a swimmer, come and speak this summer. They had themes. They had other guest speakers. They did STEM activities. I'll say STEAM because we'll throw the art in with science, technology, engineering, and math. Bridge building using various household items and so forth. That one piece from summer 2018, it was so effective and impactful that we have leveraged that and systematized it. And it's up to the CPA to my right to figure out how do we do this in perpetuity, within reason. So something I'd like to see outlive everybody in this room. So, yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
Cool. Any other public comment?
I know.
It's all right. You're getting close though, but go ahead.
All right, okay. Are we going
I love
to
you, Miss
discuss
Pineo.
the results of the subcommittee reworking the suicide prevention protocol?
Oh, so we will be discussing, but go ahead.
Yes, all right, I can wait. I don't,
Okay,
okay, I just,
It's coming up.
perfect.
I got a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Maureen asked a question about bathrooms and.
Oh, that
things,
is a good question.
And nobody
I wrote it
addressed
down.
it.
No, I did write it down.
Thank you.
Are the bathrooms clearly marked? And do we have any? What is it? Gender neutral bathrooms.
That right down below us.
Yes, we have gender neutral bathrooms, 2 of them clearly marked.
Yep.
We did that maybe 2 years ago,
It was before my time
Right,
here, but
so
I think it was, yeah.
2-3 years ago.
And
And-
single use or?
Single use,
Single use.
absolutely single use. And they're used quite a bit. It used to be female, male, and now it's just anyone, anyone can go use those. And they're accessed quite a bit throughout the day. And all others are marked.
So the girls' locker room, we'll say on the gym side.
I'm reasonably certain.
It says girls locker,
it does.
Yeah.
boys locker.
Sue, thank you. Maureen, thank you. Lori, thank you.
Travis, can you just
Please.
just off of, Maureen's house. There's two bathrooms, that's done and everything's changed, but I remember as Mr. Fennessy's area, is that where the bathrooms are?
So that's for the elementary. Yeah, there's a boys' room and a girls' room down there.
Those are boys and girls.
Yeah, you're talking
Pretty
down,
much directly below us,
we're talking the ones below us on the way to the cafeteria.
as well as the nurse's office.
So there's only those three then in the whole building?
Nurse's office and directly underneath us on the way to the cafeteria.
And it's single use, you said?
Single
Yes,
use.
single use.
Okay. I'm just asking because I went to,
Oh, Go
when
ahead.
we went to Portsmouth
Yes.
graduation, the bathroom was for everybody. And I'm in there and a guy came in and didn't close his door when I walked out. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Now, as a mother, I almost grabbed the kid, but I kept walking. But seriously, if any of my boys were ever that disrespectful, I would have hauled them. I'm just telling you, I do not want anything like that in this school or our girls exposed.
I'm just gonna jump in here. I know we're during, I'm just gonna jump in here for a second, just to remind the committee that this is not on the agenda, so it's one thing to ask clarifying questions of comments that have been made by the administration. It's another to start getting into any policy discussions that are not on the agenda this evening.
About the subcommittee policy, doesn't it go under that banner?
Excuse me?
Doesn't it go under the subcommittee policy?
This is not the subcommittee meeting. This is the school committee meeting.
Discussing
Asking a question about the subcommittee.
subcommittee meeting.
Right, but the comments are now gearing towards, policy decisions about bathroom usage. And I just want to make sure that the committee is aware that they ought to stay clear of that because it's not clearly posted on the agenda.
Ultimately, we've answered Maureen's question and
Right.
we can't really go down the rabbit hole.
Correct, correct.
That being said, I did see a gentleman's hand.
Yeah, Dave Boschman, 42 Oliver Lane. So you're probably not gonna be able to answer my question after that, because I was just gonna ask.
But we could record it for,
Okay.
we can get back. to it.
So with the definition of men's room or boys' room and girls' room, does that mean that's all that gender can go into those rooms? Because you have the gender neutral bathrooms and then you have a boys' room and a girls' room. Does that mean only girls can go in the girls' room and only boys can go in the boys' room?
The administration can answer your question. It's just my guidance was for the committee.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Lori, would you like to answer or would you like me to answer?
I am unaware of any instance in my 5 years here where there was anyone from the opposite gender in a clearly marked boys' room or girls' room.
Mhm.
I'm unaware of any safety issue that has arisen in any school in Rhode Island around that. We are bound to state and federal regulations. The use of the word agenda was used. We are working on a policy that has been on the books that predates all of us since 2018. And our kids are safe. As far as I'm concerned, I've never received, and a lot comes to my desk and I answer it very quickly. And Jack does the same. I don't think we've ever received any feedback from a parent or a child about feeling unsafe in any of our restrooms ever, or any of our locker rooms ever. I pretty much can categorically say that. Jack, you feel the same?
No, I think that's what you said, Dr. Mitchell, is spot on. It's never been,
Never.
it has not been an issue.
Nothing has ever come to his desk or mine.
But the fact remains, if I may,
Please.
that there is a policy on the books that is sort of vague when you get to the bathroom, locker room issue. And it does speak about if a child is not, so it's very unclear, it's vague, it's not good, if I may. And I understand the laws of Title IX, but what was written was guidance to the schools. And so is our policy too much for a pre-K through 8th grade school?
Yeah.
And that's,
It's not, I would say
but
that,
there were people claiming that it was law. I understand Title IX is law, but what was given to the schools was guidance. So you've written a policy based on guidance that was sent to you. In my opinion, that bathroom locker room policy is poor at best. At best, it's vague. It's setting people up to have to, and I can guarantee if parents don't understand this policy. They haven't read the policy to send their child into schools, you know. I've heard this teachers that weren't aware of this policy. I'm not sure if that's true. Just because you haven't faced it yet, you have this policy on your books. And I think
That is
it would
true.
be smart of you to review it.
do you want to step in?
Yes,
Sean?
I'm just going to clarify and respectfully respond to the point about what was issued relative to guidance. You are correct that RIDE has issued guidance relative to the issue of usage of bathrooms for those who identify as transgender. RIDE regulation requires that all school departments in the state of Rhode Island adopt policy. And that policy must comply with both state and federal guidance and best practices. The regulations state that explicitly. So when guidance is issued by RIDE, typically you're right, it is guidance. It is not law, but the law, the regulation says you need to follow the state guidance. So the guidance, in a way, does become part of the law to inform our policy. And so
Complicated.
it is a little complicated, but I think at the end of the day, this policy does comply with state law.
Go ahead, Carol.
Every policy though, every school has a different policy. The people that I'm talking to and different attorneys, this policy that we have is the worst that they've ever seen in the state of Rhode Island. So especially that second clause that says if a child is uncomfortable going into the locker room with a transgender person of the opposite sex, and they are uncomfortable, then that person needs to have guidance and encouragement from the school about diversity and inclusion. Well, heterosexual people are also diverse and should be included. So to pull them out and say, oh, you're gonna get special, you have to get re-educated, which you denied, but that's exactly what how the policy reads, is wrong. You need to remove that second policy. And there's been instances with Loudoun County where a boy came in as a skirt, assaulted a girl, raped her, in the girl's bathroom,
Loudoun County, where?
Virginia.
Virginia. Just trying to clarify. And the law firms, could you maybe reference them so we can,
Not at this time. I'm not gonna reference them at this time.
today, it's fine. There's no worries.
They had said there's danger when you have a boy in a girl's locker. Are you gonna have an 8th grade boy who's identifying as a girl, going in the bathroom with a little 3rd grade or 4th grader? It's dangerous.
I'm agreeing with you, but I do not believe that our 8th graders are going to the bathroom with 4th graders or 3rd graders.
If they're identifying, a boy identifies as a girl, according to your policy, he has the right to go into a girl's bathroom. If he identifies as a girl, he can go into a girl's bathroom.
Okay.
That's where you're gonna have problems. You can do something bad to happen at this little school. Loudoun County never thought it would happen at their school.
There.
You just don't know. You don't know. And why open ourselves up to lawsuits?
Fair. Any other comments? Thank you all. But is there any other comments? Excellent. We'll move on to our action items. First action item 11.1, discuss and vote to approve the 2024 Little Compton School Committee schedules of meetings. Now, I know Michael and I looked at this and we saw a couple things that didn't like.
Valentine's. I missed that one. Valentine's.
I mean, so I would first ask Sean, and how does this work if there's 2 days on here that come to mind, at least for me. And I know Michael had mentioned Valentine's Day, but also September 11th. I mean, that's a personal thing, so if we have to fly with that, that's fine, but what is the ruling on that? We can't.
So your
Meetings, I'm not trying to like change all the days, I'm not trying to do any of that.
your bylaws require, well, one, the OMA requires that we submit annual notice of all meetings. And your bylaws require that regular meetings take place at Wilbraham School on the second Wednesday of the month. So I haven't looked at these dates. I'm assuming these dates comply with that general rule. However, it's a general rule that obviously changes. Things come up, committee members can't get to a particular meeting. So you could do, my recommendation would just be, you can adopt this policy with the identified changes. If you know for sure now that you are not going to be meeting on Valentine's Day, for instance. Or if it's a question and you don't know the answer as to what date would be appropriate, you can leave it as this currently, and then when we get closer to the meeting, you can make the change. The public is always aware at least 48 hours in advance, as required by law, when the meeting is going to occur, where the meeting is going to occur, and the subject matter for discussion.
I would ask that we make the changes now so that everybody knows going forward.
I feel like we should wait till Megan's here, though.
That is a fair point. How about this? Can we revisit this at the December meeting? And what I would ask the committee members that are present, make your suggested changes. If you want to forward them along to Jennifer, that'd be great. The more information we have going into the meeting, the better. But as I said, I'm really only looking at those 2 dates in terms of concern. And if it's not in agreement with the committee, I will absolutely make the make the change and be here. No question. All right, so we'll table that one. Let's move right along. Item 11.2, consider, discuss, and vote to approve the Rhode Island Department of Education statewide bond and pay-as-you-go memorandum of agreement. We're a little bit of chatter before the meeting regarding this. Mr. McNamee, would you like to highlight this document and what it means for us?
So when the state issued the bonds, they allowed for what they call pay-as-you-go. So rather than waiting to get reimbursed for your housing aid, you can then have that housing aid money come to you as the project is going on. So it's allowing districts to get a little bit of cash flow to get a little bit ahead of the project. So we signed the pay-as-you-go part 1. I forget what that number was too. I believe there may be a part 3 coming out as well too. So this is a standard agreement that any districts that have approved projects with a RIDE has received. Now, we don't necessarily have to take advantage of it, but if it's there, so in the event that we need it for a project, I mean, we could use it for, I think our intent was we'd probably use some of that money, part 1 for the solar. And we could use some of that for the auditorium as well. So all it is prepaying the housing aid as opposed to waiting to collect on it.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
I do. So part 2, 99,197, that's part of the 4 million, almost 5 million. Is that, am I to understand that correctly? Is that?
That's the portion of the 4,976,000 that we can submit and receive in housing aid. So we'll get some percentage of the 99 as housing aid.
Okay.
So
Further down in that document, there's a completion date by where it has to be completed by, right there.
Up, Jonathan. I think it was June 20th or June 30th, 25.
Right.
Right.
So when I first saw this, I'm saying 4.9 million by June 25. What's what are we spending 4.9 million on by June 25? Because it says that if you don't use it, that we can lose part of this. So what part of that, what are we referring to when we're referencing this? Are we referencing just the 99,000 portion of this right now?
Right, correct. So it's only the project, that project that would relate to the 99,000.
Okay, and the 99,000 will be earmarked for what portion, or do we not? We don't, do we have that earmarked already, or we do not?
Please, Sal, go ahead.
Yeah, well, substantially complete is if it's producing to its design intent. So even if it wasn't totally complete, if it was substantially complete, that would be, that's the law.
Right, is very generous in terms of substantial.
Yeah, but I mean substantially complete, that's what that term means.
Right.
In other words, if it's being used for its designed intent. I mean, I did federal projects, so.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the solar, I mean, once that's installed and operating, that
Yeah,
would be
if it's
substantial.
operating and they're twitching or they're, doing certain things, it's still all right.
So this is not money, additional money. This is money that we would have normally got as housing aid. All they're doing is paying it
Okay.
ahead of time. That's all.
Correct. Ken? Sue? Beautiful. So this is a document we all have to sign, including the superintendent. I know Megan is not here, but with a motion to approve it, I will. Do I have a second for a motion to approve the pay-as-you-go agreement?
I'll second it.
We will vote via roll call.
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Hannah Ayat. Aye. Susan Kinane. Aye. Mike Rocha.
Aye.
I will sign this and pass it along to. All right, item 11.3, consider, discuss, and this is the second read, consider, discuss, and vote to approve the crisis response policy. Let's pull that up on the board. I know this is one that we reviewed, I want to say at the last meeting. There was some input given, and I'll turn it over to Hannah now to highlight what's going on with this policy.
So this policy, we're just reviewing and voting tonight to approve the new version, which all we took out of it was the suicide prevention piece, because that has to be its own standalone policy now. So we didn't make any other adjustments to this besides pulling that suicide prevention piece out. So we're just voting on basically reapproving the rest of it.
Okay. Any discussion? I will consider a motion to approve the crisis policy as presented.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We will vote via roll call. Jennifer?
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Hannah Ayat. Aye. Susan Kinane. Aye. Mike Rocha.
Aye.
Thank you, committee. One moment while I pull this up. Item 11.4.
So this is the new suicide prevention policy and protocol, and there was some language that we had Attorney Clough look at. So I'll turn it over to Attorney Clough and Superintendent Dias-Mitchell.
You can both handle that. Thank you so much. I'll open, you close.
Have at it.
Ms. Pinio, we took your feedback very seriously, and Attorney Clough did contact an expert on policy regulations and so forth from RIE. And so even though the language that you highlighted was not changed, and Attorney Clough will close with a rationale behind that. When he and I put our heads together, we realized that there was language that we did not feel comfortable with, that we had sort of missed. And so this is another one of RIDE's mandates. We must have a standalone policy in compliance with the new statute. And it's a really good policy. So if you look here, you'll see the clinician must inform parents or guardians if a student threatens suicide. I had issues with that because if the home is the stressor or the trigger, you wouldn't necessarily contact the family immediately if an investigation was going to ensue. So we've added the language, unless disclosure would, in the judgment of the clinician, is likely to cause harm to the student. So you're bringing to our attention areas of the policy that your years as a clinician, sort of informed. We changed, we added everything in green. If in the opinion of the clinician, the student is assessed to be at risk, the clinician may suggest immediate referral to the family physician or mental health agency. Disclosure to parents should be made in the presence of it. So you did want a more, you wanted, some strength added to that sentence right there. Let's see, you wanted the clinician should, if in the opinion of the clinician, the student is assessed to be at risk, the clinician may suggest immediate referral to the family physician or mental health agency. You wanted that rather than to read the clinician may suggest, must immediately refer the child to the family physician or mental health agency. We did consider that language change, and we were told that it should stand the way it is written. That the clinician should be the arbiter of whether or not the family physician or mental health agency would be told immediately. And there are several pieces of rationale. Want to share maybe a couple of them, or?
Well, I know, I think you actually summed it up fairly well, that there could be some level of circumstance where informing parents, and again, this is probably in a highly unlikely scenario, but there could conceivably be a scenario where DCYF needs to be contacted, where we wouldn't immediately move to disclosure. Again, that would have to be in where disclosure would cause some type of harm. Similarly, there could be a set of circumstances disclosure to, the family physician, for instance, would not be in the best interest of that student. So we need to rely on the experts who are informed of the situation, who know the student, and in certain circumstances, hopefully that we don't have to face, but in the unlikely event that we do, we have that flexibility, because I don't think we want to be putting clinicians in a position where they feel ethically obligated to make a separate decision, and then they're violating policy, because policy requires a sort of top-down cookie cutter. You always must do this in any given particular situation. So, and the only thing I would suggest, one, DCYF, we just need to add, to meet that typo.
Right.
And just so the syntax works on the first sentence, a deletion of the word would.
Right.
So it just would read, unless disclosure, comma, in the judgment of the clinician, comma, is likely to cause harm.
Right, so let's get rid of it.
So,
Hold on one moment, Mr. Go ahead, Michael.
so I was finding to what the superintendent said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're basing this on that first line, is that if at home was the stressor. And to me, this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is like saying you're making the judgment whether the home is the stressor or not, and withholding information from the parent.
The clinicians.
The clinician.
Clinician is.
They're ethically bound to make that judgment if the child's safety is in jeopardy, should they return to the home. An example would include a child coming to school saying that they're getting beat at home. At that point, the clinician channeling the parent would open up the child. I mean, let's say 30 minutes before school ends, they say, hey, I don't want to go home tonight. My parents beat the hell out of me. The clinician calling the parents, sending the child on the bus could create a situation where the child's put in an outcome that is traumatic. So, I mean, and I think Mrs. Pinio or anyone that is a licensed clinician can absolutely speak to this. They're ethically bound to protect the outcomes of not only the individuals that could be harmed, but under that guise, the individual of the child is also included. So not only them doing harm to others, them doing harm to themselves, or harm being inflicted upon them. So it's, as Sean said, an unlikely scenario, and certainly something we hope we never have to navigate, but it is a reality. Not every child's, I mean, I think in this town, it's a different story, but not every child's home life is ideal. Go ahead, Mrs. Please.
Lindsay, I think that all of us have the students' interest at heart. There's no question about that. And no one, even though we are all human, wants to be subject to making human error in this situation. And if a student discloses that they are contemplating suicide, first and foremost, to your point, Michael, I think that who is anyone to judge whether or not a child is going to be subject to harm by contacting the parent? The parent has to respond to the clinician. And the clinician, based on the response, needs to respond to the parent. Example being, if I were to call a parent and say, I have your child with me and it's in her writing and she has admitted to the fact that she would like to drink bleach so she could end it all. And I need for you to come in and take your child to an evaluation at Hasbro Hospital. And I need for you to sign a release so that we can forward the information that this child has disclosed. Now, in this particular instance, that parent did come, that parent did say, what I think my child needs, and I won't use his language, is a good swift kick in the behind. And I needed to explain to that parent that this is a brain malfunction right now, and it has nothing to do with her being her or him being an adolescent. And the parent was somewhat resistant. He said, I'll take her home and we'll deal with it. And I said, with all good respect, I can't let that happen. I will contact DCYF to come and meet here with this child. And if need be, I will contact the police to make sure that she is kept here in a safe way until this is all sorted out. And at that point, the parent agreed to take her to the hospital. And the parent agreed to sign the release so that I could send everything to the hospital for the ED, the emergency department, to do a higher level evaluation of this child's clinical needs. And at that point, that parent was made aware that if in 45 minutes I did not receive a call from Hasbro Hospital, that I would be contacting the police and I would be contacting DCYF. But I think, excuse the long, circuitous story, I think we owe it to a parent to be able to step up to their child's needs. And it is not for someone else to second guess if that person is or is not going to do that in the proper way. We need to hear from the parent to hear what the parent is planning do. Now, I understand that there was another piece here, and our friend, the good lawyer, would say that we're talking here about suicide, not the example, which can happen, that if a child says, if I go home, I'm gonna get beaten. That's not the situation. That's always a DCYF call. The situation here is that this child is saying that they are contemplating not showing up tomorrow.
Mhm.
And the parent, in my opinion, deserves the opportunity to respond. And I like the second part here, that the disclosure to the parents should be made in the presence of a second staff member or witness. And I still have major concerns that the clinician may inform, I'm sorry, the clinician, that's okay. The clinician, the student always knows that. When a student comes to a clinician in a school, they are told that if you are telling me about something and you want to harm yourself or you want to harm someone else, I need to talk to your parents and we need to get you help. That is the way the story goes. And in this case, there are two issues here. That being us second guessing the parents' response without giving them the opportunity to respond. And I think that's poor, very poor.
I need to interject.
And in the second situation,
Let her finish.
in the second situation, I would like to see the term clinician clarified at some point in this document. Because at some point there's this assessment threat assessment team and this, that, and the other. There is not time for a whole lot of telephone calls to be made. And there is not time for someone to sit and wait for this clinician to come. From where?
Well, in-house.
And
In-house, we
In-house.
already have it.
but it's not made clear. That's what I mean, that people are waiting. And I know that some of your staff is part-time and some of it is full-time. And that's just the way school has to be. I'm not criticizing that in any way, shape, or form. But I think we need to be clearer about defining the definition of the clinician who will be in charge of this assessment and in managing this contact with the parent. Because I believe that, first of all, my interest is with the student. Second of all, my interest is with the parent's dignity. And third of all, my interest is in that the school department not get sued for insinuating the incompetence of a parent without having any conversation with the parent. I think that we put ourselves at very high risk for that. And then the last piece is that the clinician, there's a piece here that is already, there's a piece that let me get back over here. So, pardon me just for a minute. Here it is. If in the opinion of the clinician, the student is assessed to be at risk, the clinician may suggest immediate referral to the family physician or mental health agency. To whom are they making that suggestion? That's not clear, because in the sentence before, there was just a discussion about if you're worried about the parent, who is this clinician going to make this suggestion to?
Yeah.
I think that it's not clear. And please don't, I just am passionate about this. That's
Oh,
all.
you are.
Please don't think that this is a criticism. I know that each and every one of you treasure children's lives as much as I do and have put a lot of work into this and a lot of consideration to this. But with due respect, I don't think we've got the kids covered yet. And I don't think we've respected the parents.
If I may, Chair, just very.
Please, Laura.
There, I have been an educator for 40 years and it's very rare, I have to say, but I have seen instances where a child would disclose suicidal ideation, et cetera. And with that, a narrative around a home life that is abusive or exploitative. And the clinician, who is a clinical social worker, you know, someone with a terminal degree licensed by the state, there's just, and I know, you know, especially one instance in particular that I was involved in my past life, where the home was the trigger, the behavior of the adults in the home compelled the student to actually attempt. And so that's not an instance where the parent would be informed, and likely not even the family physician. The clinician would, as a mandated reporter, have to report to the state, have to report to law enforcement, concurrently with supporting the student who is in a vulnerable state of crisis. So the language, I think, covers everything. And in the rare instance where the home is what is compelling the child could be exploited or abused. That's not where a phone call would be made. It's rare, but there are instances.
So just as the follow-up to that kind of an instance, where we say, in the opinion of the clinician, that the student is assessed to be at risk, the clinician may suggest immediate referral. Who is this person going to make the suggestion to if the parent is not going to be involved?
A crisis team is usually involved in some way, shape, or form. It could be another clinician. We have a full-time MSW on staff. That is not changing. We have a part-time psychologist, and we have another part-time clinician. We also have a school nurse and a guidance counselor. And so, and the principal. And if the child, and there could be a case manager involved if it is a student falling under the student support services umbrella. So it's a team decision generally led by the clinician. And it's always a nuanced decision with all the facts gathered and analyzed, sometimes on the fly. I said it's very rare, but there are instances where we would not want a member of the team contacting the family or affiliations, affiliated enterprises like the family doctor or whatever. So it's certainly not second guessing the parents. It's honoring the child's reality as stated to the clinician and keeping that child safe. That's what we're all about. Education, of course, but every child needs to feel safe. And if a child is disclosing something about the home that's unsafe, that has to be honored. And that's a mandate.
That's a DCYF.
Yeah, that's a mandate.
But
and that's the instance.
Well, I want to wrap this up. To speak to Mrs. Pineo's point and to speak to Lori's point, while I'm in agreement with actually both parties here, I'm in agreement with Lori that we will, our processes in place are rightly followed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also hearing Mrs. Pineo loud and clear that do we want to add some clarity? And that's my question for Sean. Sean, after hearing Mrs. Pineo speak, is there, following your review, or is there other things that could be added to bring greater clarity to the policy itself?
In regards to the clinician may suggest immediate referral and who she's suggesting that, or he or she is suggesting that immediate referral to, we can add some clarity around that. I think that's a good point that is brought up to our attention. So certainly that can be clarified.
Okay.
I think that's, and that's something we can bring back to the committee, if you want to see that first.
Yeah, I mean, that's the direction I'm leaning in. I really do appreciate this dialogue, and I do appreciate the passion on, to speak to, we all care about the children and the outcomes here, and we want to do what's best for our community and families as well. But that being said, we can take some more time to review this, make sure that it's tightened up, continue this discussion, and we can bring it up at next meeting. So I don't anticipate a vote tonight. Go ahead, Sal.
One more suggestion, that there's a word in that paragraph, if you could put it up again. It said, disclosure to parents should be made. I think that should say will be made. Should is an open.
Parents should be made in the presence of a second.
You can push down.
Disclosure to the parents should be made in the presence. Will be made.
Made in the presence of a second staff member as witness.
That leaves that open to whether they want to or not.
And just
Please.
as a closing comment, I guess you and I are gonna have to agree to disagree a little bit. But I want to go back to student, unless disclosure within the judgment of the clinician likely cause harm to the student. I think that gives the response from a parent over the telephone gives the clinician much more substantiation to contact DCYF and put that child in immediate protective custody. If the clinician is able to say that I contacted the parents and the parents either, I don't know, were either rude, were either negating it, or were either threatening in any way, shape, or form, whatever that dialogue is, provides extraordinary substantiation for DCYF to get right over there and take immediate protective custody of that child, as opposed to, well, we didn't call, so we're worried, because I guess sometimes the child gets beaten at home. The child said that. Okay, what clinician is going to be able to live with that? And what clinician is going to have a license afterwards, after they say that? I really think that nails that piece for the clinician to be able to get DCYF instantly involved in that student's welfare, and that child will not go home to that parent if that's the word. I guess.
No, thank you, Mrs. Oh, you want to?
I'm just gonna follow, just so I understand this clearly.
Sure, go ahead, Michael.
So Lindsay, from what I'm understanding you're saying is that you would be more in favor of the clinician contacting the parent to have more documentation to go to DCYF. Do I understand that correctly?
If necessary.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. I understand that. More so than just saying that the parent's guilty and not taking the parents, listening to the parent, whether the parent's right, wrong, or indifferent. I respect that we should reach out to a parent because a kid, we're talking suicide in this particular situation, so we don't know. Number one, that kid could be acting out. It could be a serious issue. That kid may not have got something that the parents want. The parents may have said no to something, so this is their retaliation against that kid. Or I'm sorry, retaliation against the parent. I misspoke. So I am dead set against not contacting the parent. And if this is a way to further make the kids safe, if there is an actual issue, I think we should be at least reaching out to the parent. Now, I understand what you said too, Travis, as far as the kids may get beat at home or something, but
They have to disclose that.
yeah, I mean, I understand all of this, but at the same time, for us just to cut the parent out and not discuss that with them, I'm not on board with that. So I understand what you're saying as far as this basically builds the case for the clinician.
Yep.
I understand that, and I think that's okay, but at the same time, for us just to be the judge and jury based on what one kid said at one particular moment, I think that's wrong.
Right.
If I may,
And-
yeah, if I may. The clinical social worker is not the investigative body here,
DCYF.
and that falls into the hands of DCYF. And there are instances, I strongly urge the school committee to support this language. Because there will be scenarios, maybe not here, but elsewhere, where the parent should never be disclosed. It should not be disclosed to the parent because an investigation has to start immediately.
And to be clear, in the scenario where this disclosure is not happening,
Correct.
we're already moving to the point of contacting DCYF.
An
I
investigation.
get
Yeah.
loud and clear about how a parent in a situation that you recounted might say something that builds that case further. But what happens if it doesn't? What happens if that conversation didn't happen? In the scenario in which you recounted, the parent just kept their mouth shut and then went home. We have information disclosed to us by a student. These are professionals that are speaking with the student. And again, in the unlikely scenario where a clinician's feeling, if this disclosure happens and I'm relying on a parent, I feel uncomfortable about that, DCYF needs to be called. So I think, and let's say practically speaking, if DCYF is being contacted and an investigation is going to start, parents are going to find out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Okay, especially if we're contacting police as well.
And then also to be clear, this is only in the event that disclosure would harm the child.
That's it.
Clinician must inform the parents or guardians if a student threatens suicide. Full stop. The caveat is they say, I'm going to kill myself because every night when I go home, my father beats me, whatever. From there, it's now a threat issue to the child. So that would be a scenario in which the parents weren't contacted, but any other time,
That's a DCYF issue.
That's a DCY, but
bingo.
Very clear.
That's it.
No, please.
Yeah, I raised 7 kids,
No, this is, everybody, please.
all right? And, all right, 2 of them were stepchildren. and it was tough.
here.
But kids say a lot of things, but
Correct.
if a child discloses something like that, then it's my view that there's gonna be something that's parallel.
Mm.
You're notifying the parent, but you've already brought in some people to this exposure. In other words, if a child says that to you, you don't turn them over to the parent, obviously.
No.
You're doing something else. So, but the parent's gotta be notified. You're gonna give the parent at least the ability to say, what he's saying is not true. Let him deal with DCYF then, but there's gotta be something that runs parallel in this case. Because if not, I think we're exposing ourselves. And when I say we, I feel like this is us too.
No, it is. It's
And
everybody.
when I say that, and I see some holes in it. And only on the parent side, I think you definitely have the child and considered to a great extent here, but I still think that the parent's gonna be an initial contact and say, this is what's going on, this is what we're doing.
Mm.
Could you come to the school? This is what we've already done, blah, blah, blah. And you talk to DCYF, somebody in mental health.
Basically concurrently, like you're saying.
That's right, parallel.
Sean, talk to us about that.
Absolutely not.
Well,
That's what we do.
again, there can be, and we can't conceive of every scenario, which is another reason why we have this flexibility and we are relying on the professionals that know the student. That's why there's that discretion. I can't conceive of every scenario to say, here is how it's going to roll out each and every time, which is the same reason why you don't necessarily want to have mandatory disclosure in all cases. We are using the best judgment of the people we have and have hired. And again, I'll just say that the DCYF is being contacted in this particular circumstance. And at that point, if in the judgment that DCYF is taking custody and the school department and the clinician feel it's okay to move forward with disclosure to the parents, then that's done so. But this is giving the flexibility there to make that judgment call. So I think the superintendent has said now on several occasions, and the point is, we don't want to have a policy that is saying shall do X, shall do Y when it comes to these important issues. And a clinician is put in the position of either having to violate school policy, which could end up in a position where she's in front of the school committee having to defend her career and doing what's in her judgment or his judgment, the best interest of the child and under her ethical obligations.
So to close this up, we are going to revisit this. We're not voting on this tonight. We will take a look at the verbiage and we will adjust it, and we'll certainly reconvene and do this all over again. But I appreciate everybody's comment, and certainly Mrs. Pinio, I know you've taken time on this, so I do extend a kind thank you.
By the way, she is an expert.
No, I know. So this is, I say that to say this.
I mean,
Sal, you made a note tonight when you said, I've done a lot of federal projects. You understand these things. We're very fortunate. I mean, even Lori made note. We pulled a consultant from town. I know that there's a playground consultant that lives in town. So we have a plethora of people that have an expertise, and I would love to have them at the table because it will lift all the ships. So when you come to these meetings and add this value, I find great value in gaining experience from it. It's just part of how this process needs to go. So I'd rather you come and tell us than sit on the sidelines and say, I know better, but I'm not going to go. We need to know better. So thank you for taking the time, Mrs. Pinio, certainly. All right, this is something I think we can all get behind, except I'm not seeing a number here, but consider to vote and discuss the write-off of negative lunch fund balances as of June 30th, 2023. What is this number? And why is it not here?
So it's, we're going to be tabling that this evening.
Fair.
However, I was on a Zoom call with the Department of Education, their nutrition group, and it looks like, so last year, the Department of Agriculture, or USDA, that runs the school lunch program, allowed districts to write off the negative school lunch amounts that were unpaid for the 22-23 year against any accumulated fund balance in their accounts. And that was a one-time exception that they were going to use for just that year. They've now looked at extending that to the FY24 year. So we'll have that opportunity again this year. I think they're hoping that universal free lunch will come out of this at some point. So we won't have to deal with the negative lunch balances and kids can be fed. But we will, I will propose something on the 22-23 numbers, which we just received today, and at the next meeting.
Excellent.
There's no such thing as a free lunch.
That is very true. That is very true.
There is.
With that being said,
Need to vote on that to table.
No, the chair can.
yeah, no, we don't need to vote on to table, do we, Sean? So it just says
We've been tabling through
discuss.
Chair discretion. So, I mean, if someone wants to ask for a vote to table a motion, I don't see a problem with it, but
We'll just table it until Mr. McNamee knows, A, if the program's going forward, and B, we have a definitive number that we can discuss. Do any school committee members have any requests for information from administration or legal counsel?
I do.
Go right ahead, Michael.
I should have asked this under 5.1, but this goes back to the Veterans Day, the community event that's coming up, which I think is great. And as Travis mentioned, I take part in the display at Pikes Peak along with my wife and Caroline Wilkie Wardell in bringing that display to town. But My question is, what do we do in the school for teaching the kids outside of this assembly for what's Veterans Day really about?
I mean, the fact that we have probably one of the finest Veterans Day assemblies, where kids certainly at the younger levels come to realize, what November 11th truly is, I think is an important thing. A lot of what goes on in the older grades is really based on, what the curriculum is that they're talking about at the time. I'm sure teachers talk about it. We have a retired colonel who was a 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher. And I know
Amazing.
he's offered many things, not necessarily military related, but related to veteran and some of his experiences worldwide. In terms of, actual day, I think I'd have to probably talk to every different social studies teacher, but I think it's something that this school certainly celebrates. And is with every veteran that walks through those doors.
The display that we put on, we're doing it because we want to. We want to recognize the people and the veterans that are in this town. And it's also another opportunity for the students of the school to recognize what we're doing out there, not because of what we're doing, but what it resembles, I'll say, what the meaning is, why, to how to wrap that into Veterans Day as far as, why do we put the flags out there? Why are we recognizing the names that are on the banners for the veterans? And take that opportunity to show the students. And yes, the assembly is great. I mean, the different bands and what have you, and I know they get up and they sing the different songs from the different the armed services, and that's great. But do they really understand what this all really means besides singing a song? And I'm not trying to downplay the song, but I just do they really know what this all means? And that's what I
can speak for Mary Elizabeth and Miss Corrigan, who have been working with the 8 or 9 students in here who will be preparing the speeches for that day. They spent an awful lot of time preparing for the day. Again, can I speak to what 4th and 5th grade? I'm sure the teachers touch on it. They talk about the importance of it. I don't believe that the teachers have walked across the street and looked at all the names. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't think that has happened. On another note, Mike, along with our country, we actually were in the preparation stages of taking a group of students to a YMCA Youth and Government Day next week. Unfortunately, it got postponed till the spring. But in terms of the civics and the social studies that's talked about, I guess we'd have to talk to each individual teacher to find out what happens.
And
ahead, Sal.
that's that's fair. The opportunity is there for us to.
I just like to say that I was over there Sunday morning with Mike, helping do that. My name's on one of the banners. I'm a veteran.
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. 2 of my brothers hit the beach in Normandy. One of them hit the beach in Anzio first and then hit the beach in Normandy. One of my other brothers jumped for pilots in Vietnam. I was in the Navy. We've given a lot to the country, and I would like to see maybe something written and spoken of that day when the students come in. Nothing big, but just mention the men and what those flags represent, and the men on the stone and what they've given. They gave it all.
Yes, they did.
For this country. And that's why we're here. That's why you and I can talk. That's why we can disagree. That's why we can agree. And I think it's very important. I'd like to see us leave something that was here when we came in. I'm not seeing that lately. I'd like to see as much as I knew when I left school. And then I could tell my brothers, let me sit down.
Oh, so. Oh,
Principal McKinnon, I do have a question to highlight Sal's point and Michael's point. Would there be a way, even in just your short time in speaking just now, moving, emotional, certainly impactful, would there be a way we serve the veterans on Monday night? Would some of these veterans be willing to come to the classrooms?
I'm sure they would.
That's where I'm going with this. And maybe we can put in the administration's ear the possibility of having our veterans that live in town, that give so much that have given to this country and also to this community still, come to our students and share some of their stories. Because I think that's a big part of it.
They're not just old men that are walking around
Correct.
with silly hats on.
I have like a shameful pride about the military. I did not serve in the military, so I do have a little bit of shame in that. But my family, I'm a descendant of Oliver Hazard Perry. So when you said the Navy, don't give up the ship is something that our family is very, very, it's not just a slogan, it is part of our life. So to hear you speak and to see what I'm kind of going through with my son at 7 and how to lead him into it and show him this appreciation and show him what this great country has given our family and so many others. There is a gap that I'm having difficulty bridging because I didn't serve, right? So I want to champion those that did.
You can do that by your actions,
Fair.
just by your actions. Just by saying to a veteran when you see him, thank you for your service in front of your son.
Absolutely.
And buying a veteran breakfast once in a while without him even know who you are.
Absolutely.
You can share it. It's easy to do.
I want to get this gentleman involved because this is,
Long Highway. Sal, this is a great opportunity for the teachers to have a sort of a living history project where you find these people that are elderly. We're going to lose them. We lost one last week.
Yeah.
Vietnam vet. Find out what they did, find out their history, and put it someplace where it can be looked at in the future. Just an idea.
great idea. I want to keep this ball rolling. We have the 350th anniversary coming up for the community. And we also have the 250th anniversary of the country coming up. So these are two opportunities in which we can maybe collaborate with the veterans and those that have served in town to continue this legacy and teach our children this living history, if you will.
Thank you.
I've got a 13-star flag at home, with bullet holes. Make a good thing for the people to see.
These are the types of conversations we need to have in this dialogue. So I ask the administration, see what we can do about reaching out and creating this collaboration. Maureen.
And I also know from the Historical Society that they are very good about teaching oral history, taking to students. And it's a wonderful thing to have years from now.
Yeah.
It's a treasure to have somebody's spoken words, recorded for
Correct.
history, and then preserved.
Correct.
And if I may, don't forget Friday, all of the town's veterans,
They've been invited, yeah.
they've all been invited. Our students speak to all of that, all their service and contributions to this great country of ours. It is a sight to behold. And if any of you would like to come, it's open to the public.
I'm glad we closed on that. Go ahead, Michael.
And Jack, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, and I don't mean to, please don't take it. This is such an important thing that goes on, and I'm in the same boat as Travis. I never served, but I know that the
I
important.
remind them every day.
But the importance
I
is
appreciate
there.
that.
And I'm, again, please don't take it that I'm trying to put you on the spot. I'm not. I just yeah.
No, you're just bringing to light the resource we have in town. And Sal, you spoke beautifully and eloquently tonight, and your passion. I mean, that's what I want our kids to feel, to speak to your point, Michael. And we have that here, to speak to Mr. Pinio's point. So if we could have some sort of collaboration, and this is one hand washes the other and both wash the face. I'd be very, very proud to be a part of that. So Sal, thank you. Mr. Pinio, thank you. administration. Thank you, Michael, certainly for your suggestion and your contributions to the veterans in the community. That being said, unless we're trying to set a new track record here, I will consider a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?